Hello, fellow Maya refugees. Today I will teach you how to use most of the basic functions of Blender. So that includes texturing, modeling, whatnot. So today I'm using the version 3.2 of Blender. Hopefully your version is similar to mine. Uh, as of right now, which is 6/12/2022. Blender 3.2 is the current version of Blender. So this is kind of what we'll be making today. It's this lamp with some lighting, which is very nice. Kind of a fun starter project in my opinion. Post-processing Liam here. This is an image of the original lamp that's outside of my house that I've been using as reference. And we also have here's the final image as well of the final render, just so you know what you'll be trying to make today. But when you start up Blender for the first time, odds are this is what you're going to see immediately. Your standard cube and whatnot. And when you first load up Blender, the very first time, you're going to have a screen where you get to choose what kind of control scheme you have and whatnot. So for that, you would want to choose the basic Blender one, because that's what I'm teaching you today, not the Blender 2.7, not the industry standard. Now, the thing about industry standard, though, is I'm not going to be able to teach you how to use it because it's different than the control scheme I personally use, and I'll be teaching you in this tutorial. But if you want to use industry standard, it should be similar, if not the same, to other softwares such as Autodesk Maya. And if you want to check that you have the right control scheme, you can go to Edit in the top left corner, go to Preferences, go to Key Map. Actually, I have to bring that up on OBS real quick. There you go. So you want to go again to Edit, Preferences. Sorry, this is in the way. I'm not very good at this. Okay, so you go to Edit, Preferences. You click on that. Then this screen pops up. You go to Key Map, and then at the top there's a little pop-down menu, or drop-down menu, where it says Blender, Blender 2.7x, and Industry Compatible. Now Blender is the one I'll be teaching you guys how to use, and Industry Compatible should be similar to Autodesk Maya. Yeah, so today I'm using Blender. Now, okay, so, yeah, so to begin with, how to move around the screen. So you use your middle mouse button. Hopefully you're not using trackpad. And if you hold that down and kind of drag across the screen, that'll be how you kind of orient your camera in a rotational way. You can scroll with your middle mouse wheel, and that'll let you zoom in and out. And you can hold Shift and also hold down your middle mouse wheel while you pan across the screen to kind of move to pan. So that's your basic control. So again, that's middle mouse button, hold down to rotate, Shift and middle mouse button to pan, and then scroll up and down on your middle mouse button to zoom in and out. And those are your basic functions for how to move your camera around. Now, also, additionally, let's say you zoom really out and then you move around and you, I don't know, you screw it up or something. And you're saying, oh no, it's not oriented right. Well, what you can do is you can select your block or what you want to view. So in this, I can either select it here or in the screen. I can select it in this menu as well. And then I go to View, and then I go to Frame Selected, and it'll bring me back to my cube, so then I can easily see everything again. So that might be a good tip, just in case you pan too much or you zoom out too much or whatnot. Alright, so now to begin with our modeling. So to begin with, probably not going to need the light, so we're going to select that, and either you can press X and then press delete with your left click mouse, or you can right click it and also delete it. X is just kind of the fast hotkey way to do it. So now you have a block and a camera. So you can left click on the block to select it. As you can see, I'm in the selection mode. Now I have these 3, and then I guess 4, but this one's just a combination of the previous 3 transformations I can do to this block. I have move, so I have, you can move it, if you use the arrows, you can move along any of the indicated axes. And you can also just press the circle and kind of move it arbitrarily. It's not super controlled, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. Now, if you want to undo any actions, it's Command or Control Z, just like anything else. And then there's these little squares, and these will do it along the 2 axes that's kind of in parallel with, I guess. So if I do this one, it'll move along the red and green axes, but not the blue one. So as you can see, it'll go off in this direction, but it won't go up or down. So if I kind of orient myself, as you can see, I can move it anywhere around here, but it won't go up or down. So that's very helpful as well. Now, that's the first tool. So we have move, we also have rotate. Now rotate is very similar. You do the red one, you can click and hold, left click and hold, and you can kind of just rotate stuff along the red or the green or the blue axes. And if I click on the white circle, then I can just rotate it arbitrarily in space. It's not super controlled, so I don't use it very much. So there's that as well. And you also have scale, which is pretty much the same. So, 1 axis, 2 axes, 3 axes, arbitrarily scale. Or I guess it's just standard, you scale the whole thing. So there's all of those tools, and Command Z to undo. That's the basic tools. Now, if you want your control scheme to be more like Autodesk Maya, you can make shortcuts for these. I did that because these are the tools that I like to use most when I'm in object mode and whatnot. So you can right click that and then change shortcut. I made it W, E, R for moves, rotate, and scale respectively, just like it is in Maya. And then when I press W, it'll put it to move mode, E, rotate, R, scale. It's not that by standard. Standard is like G for moving, and then like R for rotation and S for scale. I don't like that a lot because, as you can see, if I press G, I just press G now, it immediately goes to like if I held down on the white circle, so I'm just moving it arbitrarily in space, which I feel is kind of hard to control. Now, if you've begun a what's it called, a transformation, so let's say I have it being selected by pressing G, and I don't want to actually do that, I can just press escape and it'll go back to how it was. So that's another cool trick you can use. Alright, so now to begin with modeling. Now, a couple things you should know. We're currently in the layout menu. So Blender has a couple functions that you'll be using the most. You can see them in this drop-down menu in the top left corner. We have object mode and edit mode, which are the two, I guess, most used modes for especially modeling and whatnot. You also have sculpt, which is maybe good if you're doing character design or whatnot. And then you have, vertex paint, weight paint, texture paint. So that's definitely useful when you're making a character. Can't say I personally use them too much. So we're going to go into edit mode. Now, oftentimes I won't use this drop-down menu. A great way to use edit versus object mode is selecting whatever you want to edit and then pressing tab as your hotkey. And that'll put you into edit mode. Now, once in edit mode, you'll be allowed to select individual vertices, as you can see, those little orange dots in the corners, edges, which are each of the individual edges, or sides. You can select sides. Now, this is really useful when you're trying to make more interesting objects. than just a cube. Because you can take sides and extrude them and whatnot by pressing E once you select a side. I can also hold down Shift and select two sides or more. Doesn't have to be two, and I can play around with those as I would like. So there's that. Um, you can do the same with edges and whatnot, or vertices, as you can see. So it's Shift, and then you select whatever you want to select whatever, like a plural amount of edges or vertices or what have you. Okay, so we're gonna take this cube and turn it into a lamp, like I said I would. So to begin with, we're going to use the knife tool. It's down here. I'm not really sure the hotkey. I never use it. And we can just click on each of the corners and have it cut or create a edge from the lines and press Enter. So we're going to do that. Click corner, corner, Enter. So now we've got two cuts. So this does a couple things. This adds... I'm still in knife mode. So just go back to move mode or even select mode. So this creates a couple things. As we can see, there's 4 more edges on the top, but what I really want to see is there's a new vertice on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into vertice select, which is this little icon up here in the top left corner. We're going to press move, and then we're just going to move it up a little. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into the top of our what's it called? Our lamp. So I just move it up an arbitrary distance. That looks fine. So that's going to be good. And then we're going to select the whole top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into X-ray mode, which is this kind of double rectangle icon in the top right. Click that. So that means I can just select the whole top by dragging across the whole thing. And then I have, as you can see, it's all highlighted in orange. So the whole top is selected. And I'm in face mode, just to be clear. And then I can right-click that. So we're going to split that. So now that makes it so when in edit mode, this and the bottom are separate pieces, so I can kind of edit them individually. So they're no longer connected by this edge. So that's helpful because this is going to become the top of our lamp, as you saw earlier, and this is going to become the bottom of our lamp. So that's very helpful. So we're just going to leave that floating up there for now. And we're going to select this bottom face and just make that a little bit bigger by just holding down this blue rectangle, scale it up a little bit, and then moving this whole thing down to make it a little bit taller by just holding that that arrow, kind of scaling it, kind of eyeball it a little bit. Looks good enough to me. Looking good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the whole thing, and we're going to right-click it and go to Subdivide. We're going to just do this 1, 2, 3 times. That looks about right. And what we're going to do is we're going to extrude kind of the pattern. There's a kind of funky cage pattern on the outside. So we're going to extrude that to make it look a little bit more realistic using these subdivisions. So this kind of adds extra geometry. What this allows me to do is, I can select all of these faces, and I can select a whole row of faces, and that'll allow me to, make the patterns on the outside. So to continue with this process, what we're going to do is we're going to choose the loop cut tool. Now I am going to just put a couple loop cuts in the middle of each side face of our polygon. So this adds a little extra geometry that I'll be able to use to make the pattern. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to do orthographic view. So if you hold Alt and then kind of pan with holding middle mouse and dragging your mouse, that'll put you into a flat view of each of the sides. And you can do that up, down, side, side. And this is really helpful for, being able to see each individual side. And if you want to go out of this view, just hold down middle mouse and pan it, and then you rotate and you go back to your normal view. So this is going to be useful because I want to go to the bottom, and I want to just select the whole bottom of faces like so, and just right click and delete those because we don't need them. Okay, so great, that looks good. We're going to start making the pattern that we see on the sides. You might remember it from the beginning of the video. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin by going to vertice mode, vertice select mode, and we're going to start selecting some vertices. So this is going to make the kind of point you saw in the sides of each of the, in the pattern of the sides of each of the sides of the lamp. What you do is you select by holding shift and left clicking all of the vertices you want to influence. So I did that by holding shift and again just clicking the 3 vertices while I'm in vertice mode in edit mode. Right click those, go to merge vertices at center. This will make kind of the point that I really want to see, and I'm just going to continue to do this on all of the sides. Just do that like 4 times because there's probably a better way to do it, but it's a little tedious, but that's okay. It's not that many. So I just do that, merge them at center. There you go. I have got the 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Very cool. I like that a lot. Now what we're going to do is start selecting faces to kind of extrude the sides so we can use that for the pattern on the sides. So I'm going to go back into orthographic view. You do that by Alt and then holding down middle mouse and kind of just moving your mouse around until you get the right view. We're going to go to toggle X-ray so I can select a lot of faces at once. We're going to just select this whole top row, hold down shift so I can select the bottom row as well. I also want to select this row, and then I'm going to start just selecting down the sides. And as you can see, it's kind of a lighter shade of orange. That's because I didn't select both sides. I'm only selecting, like, as you can see, one side here, and then like some faces here. So it's not perfect. So what we're gonna do is go back into non-X-ray mode by just clicking these rectangles in the top right again. We're gonna select the corners as well of each of the sides. And all the while I'm holding down shift while I click each of these, so it keeps the selection of all of them. Alrighty, so just like that, I've selected everything. I want to do one more selection, so I'm going to go back into orthographic view, back into X-ray view because I forgot to do it earlier. Hold down shift, and then I just want to select these little dingle-dongies on each side. So you just do that by dragging and selecting the whole area, and boom. If I go into non-X-ray mode, you can see the pattern from earlier. It looks like I've selected everything that I need to select. So great. What do we do with this? Well, what you can do with this is make this a little bit bigger than the rest of the lamp. So, extrude it a little or just like thicken it. What we're going to do is press E, and we're going to press escape so we're not like, actively selecting it. And what we're going to do is go into scale and just make it a little bit bigger. So that's looking good for the base mesh of the base lamp. We're going to work on the little tippy-toppy part now. So we're going to select this. I'm going to go to X-ray mode so I select the whole thing. Alright, toggle X-ray mode again. First we're going to do is scale this so it looks, like the proper size. I'm going to say about that big is good enough, probably. Then we're going to go into move, move that down so it's about in the same area. Nothing's peeking through. Looks pretty good, about flush with the rest of the lamp. And then you press E to extrude again, but this time we're just going to move it up a little, and then there you go. It's got thickness, as you can see, and just like that, the model of our lamp is completely done. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to show you another trick. You can select any part of the mesh and just press A. It'll select the whole thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add textures to this guy. And how you do that is you click the ball down here, and then you add a new material. So it'll add an empty material. You want to select new and assign. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the shading tab up here. Now, yours might not look exactly the same as mine, but that's okay. Because what really matters is what's down here. Now, currently, so this is what's called, what are they called? Shading nodes, I guess. And this really controls how your end product will look, how it reflects light, what kind of texture it has, stuff like that. Now, you can see what it actually looks like by, I'm going to move this sideways a little bit. You can see the 4 dots here. We've got wireframe mode. Let's go to X-ray mode. Wireframe, so this is X-ray, wireframe, solid shading, some other viewport shading, and then the actual renderer. Now, how you select what renderer you're currently rendering in is through render properties. It's like the little camera icon in the right-hand side. You can click on that. Right now, I'm in Eevee, and currently we have Eevee, Workbench, and Cycles. Now, Cycles is the sort of ray tracing engine that Blender uses. If you have a less beefy computer, I would not use it as a viewport renderer. I would use Eevee. But both of them work. Cycles is a little bit more realistic. Eevee takes a little more tweaking to make it look realistic, but Cycles works great. So we can choose Cycles, and then when we select viewport shading, it'll be rendered in Cycles. Now, of course, it doesn't look like anything right now because there's no light. So we can fix that by just going back to layout, adding a, going out of, what's it called, edit mode by pressing tab, or just selecting it up here, choosing object mode. And then we can click add, light, and then we're just going to choose a spotlight, just so we can see our textures a little bit better. We're going to go into move mode. We're going to move this, I don't know, over here, I guess. Looks good. We're going to choose this yellow thing, just kind of point that at the lamp. And then we're going to make this, I don't know, let's say 100,000 power. Sure, 100,000 watts. Okie dokie. So now we have a light. And of course, if I choose the Cycles renderer, it'll render in Cycles. Now, currently, it looks kind of bad. We're going to turn this to 10,000. It's a little too bright. But you can see we've got the basic texturing done on this guy, or not texturing, modeling, should I say. You can see the outer cage sort of pattern on the lamp, the roof, the thickness. Not too shabby, eh? So what we're going to do is we're going to give this guy some life. We're going to give him some shading, some texturing. So click on this guy again. Alright, sorry. I lost it for a second, but I'm back. Alright, so as I said, you can add a material, and then if you go into the shading tab, your material will be here. You have a drop-down menu where you can choose your material. I'm going to be using this one, so I'll call this one, lamp black. Lamp black. So there you go. There's our lamp black material. This is going to be the black portion of the lamp that you saw earlier. In fact, no, I will not bring it up because that's a pain. Okay, so as you can see, immediately we can begin by just turning this black. changing it to black color. That's always good. We like black. And another thing I'm going to do is kind of up the metallic, because it's it's a metallic material. You can go to Cycles Renderer to kind of see it. But right now it looks kind of boring. It's got no texture. It's completely flat, as you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of texture. What we're going to do is, just like in layout mode, you can add stuff, add nodes. Either click here and search noise. Add noise. Or you can just do Shift A, which I like to do. And we're going to get a bump node. Now you can do a lot with textures and bump nodes. These kind of add a little bit of texture to your model. So that's really helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect bump node normal to ESDF normal and noise texture color to bump map height. Now as you can see, this already starts to look like something. It looks a little silly, so what we're going to do is up the scale so it's kind of bumpy, maybe up it a little more, add some detail. Why don't we? Roughness, add a little bit of roughness, just like that. No distortion, turn the strength down a little bit. It's a little bit too high at the moment. We can also change between our viewports to kind of see the texture a little bit better. This one loads a little bit faster. So it's a little bumpy. Maybe I'll turn down the detail a little. Maybe turn down the strength even. So yeah, now it's a little bit textured. It looks a little bit like somebody roughly painted it or something. This just makes the final result a little bit more interesting to look at, as opposed to just flat colors. Changes the light reflections a little bit, makes it a little bit more realistic, because in real life, most things have a little bit of texture. Alright, that's looking pretty decent. So we're going to move on to our second texture, which is going to be the sort of white translucent bits in this kind of in these depressed areas on the lamp. So what we're going to do is just preemptively select these and Control-C to copy them for later. We're going to save these for later because we're going to want to add a similar texture just so it's a little more interesting to our depressed bits. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Layout. I'm going to change my viewport. We're going to go to Edit mode by pressing Tab. We're going to make sure we have Faces selection on. We're going to go to X-ray, go into Orthographic View, and start selecting these depressed areas. So I'm just going to finish selecting all of these. And of course I'm holding down Shift the whole time. Bada bing, bada boom, I've got one side selected. Let me just check I did it correct. Yes. We're going to do this again to the other two sides. Holding down Shift all the time. Select D, select D, select D, select, select, select D, select, and bada bing, bada boom, you've selected all the faces that you want. Now we're going to make these a different texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our little menu, click on the little red ball in the bottom called Material Properties. We're going to add a new property. Just press New and assign it. So if I go into Viewport Render mode, you can see it's now white instead of black. That's because it's a new texture, a new shader. So that's great. All of these faces that I've selected are going to be a new color now. But not only that, if we go back into our shading tab, we can go into this drop-down menu. We've got lamp material. I think it's material 4. I think this is the one. Just choose you'll probably have less than me. I kind of screwed up earlier, so it's a little funky. Just select your white material that you haven't worked on, and you have this, and you want to do Command V from previously, or you can go back into your lamp black material, just copy these, selecting them, Command C, go back to your other material. I'm going to rename this lamp white, and then paste it in here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to connect this to our normal as well on our principled BSDF. This is kind of our color. And as you can see, there is now texture. Isn't that so cool? Lovely, lovely, lovely. We're going to turn the strength down a little bit, just because, you know, this is kind of a, make it a little more subtle. It's supposed to be smoother, it's not metal. It's more like glass. And now you have this, looking more like the lamp that I modeled previously by the second. It's looking better and better. Isn't that great? So what we're going to want to do is, the actual lamp is not perfectly white. I'm just going to change the color up a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of subsurface. We're going to make this, I don't know, like a different color. Just make it a little more interesting with the light scattering. And a big part of this is we're going to make this transmissionable. Now this will allow light to go through it. I don't know, make it that much transmission, I suppose. Give it a little bit of roughness, because it's not completely clear. Oh, sorry. I don't know, let's say that much. That looks about right. And of course we can go back into our renderer, kind of see what it looks like. Looks kind of bad, whatever. I'm sure it'll look okay later. Let's select our denoiser, that'll help. So I went into here, into the render settings, cycles, and then I select denoiser. I'm also going to change my viewport. So under viewport, I'm going to change my max samples to 32, change my max samples of the renderer to also 32. I'm not looking for super high quality renderers, so this will just make it less taxing on my computer when I make everything a little faster. So, alright, I've got one texture for the metal, one texture for the glass. It takes the renderer a little time to catch up, but it's looking pretty good. So what else do we need? Well, we need to add a light. So we're going to go back into layout. We're going to add a light. So we're going to go back into object mode, press tab if you're in edit mode. I left myself in edit mode. We're going to add a light, and this is going to be a point light because this is going to be the light inside of the lamp. Now, for me, this just appeared in the middle of the lamp because the lamp was centered on where the objects spawn in. If not, you can just move it into the lamp. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's practice after all. So what we're going to do is we're going to up the power on this lamp. Let's make it, I don't know, 100,000 watts, whatever. And look at that, the lamp is glowing. Isn't that marvelous? I'm going to make this a little bit lower. We'll make this, I don't know, 50,000. Sure, good enough. We'll make the color of this a little bit orangey, just to make it a little bit, friendlier of a color. I feel like bright, brilliant white is a little bit less approachable of a color. And at this point, you're pretty much done with the lamp. So if you want, you can continue with me to, make a little background wall for this and whatnot and just, polish it a little bit. But if you're happy with what you have here, you can do this thing called rendering. Now, if you want to render, you'll notice my camera's here and I press render, render image. Sorry, I'm going to have to bring this up separately in OBS. Full display. So you'll see something like this, and it'll say time remaining, this much time, time this much. And depending on if you chose cycles or Eevee, it'll render in either cycles or Eevee. But yeah, it'll render out. This is the final render. Looks kind of bad because I haven't, polished it any. But it's you've got the texture, you've got the transmissible white surface that's exuding, transmitting light from inside of it. It's a lamp. It's pretty good. So you have that, but it can be a lot better. So let's go back to our Blender view. We can make this so much better. So one thing I noticed immediately is it looks a little bit cold, a little bit bad, because the white on the lamp is a little bit too white. Now, of course, you can just change this very easily by selecting your lamp, going into shading, choose your lamp white color in your drop-down menu, and just change the color to a little bit more of an orange color. And I'll make this like a reddish pinkish color. Sure. Cool. Just like that, it's a little bit more approachable, a little bit nicer looking, a little friendlier. That's a good start. I like that a lot. But we're gonna need like a wall behind it to make a proper render. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say. When you render, it'll render where the camera is viewing. So what you can do is either you can move this around, or you can select the little camera view, and then you can see what it sees, and you can move it around. Let's say move it there, and then it moves where the camera is. So it'll render from there, not where your viewport is proper. So just a little heads up if you're rendering. We'll move that later to where it needs to be before we make the final render. But first, I want to add a wall behind this lamp so it looks a little bit better. So we're going to add a mesh, a plane. It just appears there. I'm going to just make it so that it's 0, 0, 0, 0 out the rotation. Make it 90 for, maybe not 90, 90 for Z. Is that correct? No. Sorry. 90 for Y. There you go. Now it's in the right orientation. And you get to this by just going to the transform menu. Maybe this is here for you. I'm not entirely sure. It might be a add-on. I'll show you my add-ons right now. It's in edit, preferences, edit, preferences. Let me open it up for you. Sorry. Full display. Your preferences will open up this tab. Add-ons. As you can see, these are the ones I have. I have extra objects. I also have, whatever this is, whatever that is. All these other guys. This one, these are pretty good. Mesh Loop Tools is very useful. I'd recommend this one. Node Wrangler, also very useful. All this stuff. So if you want to get exactly what I have here, I'm not entirely sure what all these do. Honestly, I set them a while ago. I don't think I used any of these in this tutorial, but just in case something isn't working, maybe you can get these as well and it'll start working. But yeah, add-ons are part of Blender. They're very useful. They have add-ons, so you can like put in trees as a base mesh and whatnot. It's pretty useful. So yeah, so we have our, sorry, let me just go to the correct display again. There we go, just Blender. We have our plane. We're going to scale that up, make that big. We're going to move it so it's behind our lamp. We're going to move it so it has a little bit less space. There we go, looking good. You can have these nice light reflections coming out of the lamp. Very, very cool. So we're going to need to give this guy some texture, or should I say, this plane. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a new, in the texture ball, while selecting only the plane. Add a new texture, press new, and then go to our shading tab, and here's our new texture for our plane. Very, very cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this is going to be a color. We're going to say tan because outside of my house is kind of tan and it's a sort of earthy color. That'll complement our render, I think. It'll look pretty decent. Sorry. Textures are not playing nice, so we'll go to a different view setting. There you go, very cool. Maybe I'll make it a little bit more dark, a little more aggressively tan. And yeah, that looks more or less like it's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to Command V again. Hopefully it's still selected, or you can just go into your other textures like so. Go to your lamplight to select this and copy, Command C. Go back to your other material. We'll call this wall. And then paste that in. Now, we're going to do something a little different for the wall. We're going to look, it's got texture. We're going to add a little bit more texture to make this more nuanced from the rest of the lamp. The lamp's pretty basic, you know, but this is going to be like a, a plaster wall, let's say. So it's going to be a little bit more textured, should I say. So we're going to add another noise texture. Just plop that down right there. And we're going to add a mix RGB. So that's cool. We're going to just put the color from, color from here, drag that in there. So we've got our two noise textures feeding into this mix, which mixes them, puts them into this bump node, which then puts it into the normal for our texture. Very, very cool. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tweak this. This is going to, it's going to help me kind of judge what this is looking like. So this is the second noise texture that I added. I moved how much this is choosing. So right now it's selecting it's using only this guy because it's all the way this way. If I selected it all the way back, it's only using this guy. In the end, we're going to have it in the middle somewhere, but right now I'm just going to make sure this texture is good. We want like a bigger noise texture, just to have like kind of bigger bumps in the wall. And just like that, I think I just moved it to, scale and moved it up a little bit. And just like that, move it around here. And as you can see, it's got big bumps, but also the base little texture in here as well. That looks pretty good. That's kind of what I'm going for. Looks a little wacky in here, but once there's lighting and everything, I think it'll look pretty decent. Alrighty. Time to set things up for the final render. We're going to go to Layout again. Select our camera view. We're going to transform this so it's, not selecting the camera. So we're going to select the camera proper. We're going to just sort of line everything up with how I want it to be. And this little rectangle in the middle, the orange one, is what you'll see in the final render, which is very cool. I like that a lot. There you go, nice rule of thirds, nicely centered. You can see a lamp, see everything else. So that's looking pretty decent, but we're going to change some lighting settings. It looks like the light inside of the lamp is a little high powered right now, and we want to add another light. We can just repurpose this one I used for demoing earlier. We can use this light to kind of add more depth into the scene, kind of like as if there was, let's say, I don't know, some daylight outside or whatnot, because it's not pitch black outside ever, or sometimes it is, but not really. So that's good. What we're going to do is we're going to select our point light, which is the one inside of here. I'm going to tone it down a little. It's a little high. So let's say it's going to be 20,000. There's a little tweaking involved here. And that's a little high. Let's say 5,000. Okay, that's looking a little bit more reasonable. And of course, what we can do is, let me go to my full display. We can always select render and just kind of see what we would get. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. No, my render settings are too high. So you can always tweak render settings. Right now it says it'll take like 3 minutes. 2 minutes 30 seconds. That's a little much. I don't want to wait that long, so we're going to X that out to just cancel the render. Go to our render settings. We're in cycles, blah, 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 blah. Definitely make sure you checked denoise. That's super helpful to your renders, otherwise it'll look like crap. Viewport, this can be like 10. And render, since this is just a demo, we'll just put that on 10 as well. And that's max samples. That's like how high quality your initial render will be, how many light paths and whatever it tracks. So that's good. I like that a lot. Make sure everything's denoised. Denoising, very useful, especially when you're in cycles. I don't think there's denoising for Eevee because it works differently. As you can see, it looks different. Don't use Eevee because I'm not doing this for Eevee, I'm doing it for cycles. So we're going to render again. We'll see how much time this takes. Yeah, as you can see, this time it says 30 seconds. That's a lot more manageable. So what it'll do is it'll do all the light tracing and whatnot. And then it will take all of those points. So right now it looks really spotty. This is without denoising, but at the very end, it'll denoise it and it'll kind of average all the colors and it'll make it look good. So just bear with me for 10 seconds. I'll probably cut this down in post. Maybe I won't. We'll see. And there we go. It looks somewhat like this. So just looking at it, looks a little strange. There's some funny lighting going on. There's not a whole lot of lighting up here, which is making the texturing kind of not look so good. So I think I'll change the spotlight a little bit to make it look a little better and whatnot, and change some settings up. So if you want to save this, you can. You can go to Image, and then Save, and then you can just save it to a folder and whatnot. I'm not going to do that because I think it looks kind of bad right now. I'm going to fix it a little bit. Alright, so first we're going to change the spotlight. Looks like I screwed it up a little. We're going to kind of change the cone by selecting this teal triangle or arrow, and you can drag it up and down to change the cone of light. I'm going to make it bigger, so it actually lights up the dang thing. We're going to change the shading on the wall by going to Shading tab and just clicking the wall or only one color. You can also just do it in the drop-down menu. Something about the colors here are kind of off. Now that I think about it, it's probably not the wall, it's probably the white material for the lamp. What is going on here? Probably this is what's screwing it up. So let's just tone that down, make it a little bit more white. And that's probably good. Let's see if that changes everything. I'm not entirely sure where all this color is coming from. Maybe it's from To Be Franklin, I do not know. I'm sure it'll go away eventually. Okay, so we've got this guy. We're going to make this guy kind of a blue light. Select him, go into the light menu, which is the little light bulb. I'm going to make it slightly blue, as if it was, like outdoor light, because the sky is blue. The sky reflects blue light onto everything. Just make it a little bit more realistic. In fact, I'm going to go to here, to my render settings up here, change the max settings, the render max samples down to like 4 for my render. Just render that real quick, see what it looks like, just to test all the lighting and whatnot. And you might do a lot of trial and error. Yeah, as you can see, it takes 12 seconds as opposed to 30 previously. Maybe my render settings are off. You know what? You can always tweak your render settings. You can tweak your texture settings until you get something that you like. I don't like the camera angle, but it's looking okay. It's looking fine. So if you want, you can stop here. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit, probably condense that down. I'm not going to show you what I'm doing in real time for fixing it, and then I'll show you my final product. Alright, it's starting to look pretty good. We're going to add in, I'm going to see if this helps. shading, we can also affect the world. So if we want the background to be like a different color, we can do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to search volume. We're going to get a principled volume, stick that into world, make the density 0.001 or something, make it something pretty low. And this will add kind of the light effects in the air, so as if there was like dust or something in there or mist that the light can kind of reflect off of. So maybe this will add to the render, maybe it won't. I'll just kind of see if it helps. But we'll see. We'll just add a little more color into the scene. Well, that's looking pretty good. Pretty realistic. I like, we've got the wall texturing, kind of looks like plaster. We've got the lamp, it's got nice colors in it, it's got the light in the middle. You can see the light coming out of the lamp. You can see the light coming out the bottom as well. I'd say that's pretty good. So if you wanted to, you could just save this by image and then save and then, you know, blah, 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 blah. Or if you want to make a really nice render, you can also go to your render engine button and then, you know, up the samples of the render to, you know, like 32 or something. So it's a better render. And then, you know what, I'm going to render it, get a final image, and then I'll show you guys that, and then we'll end the video. And just like that, our render is done. You know, there's a little more fidelity since I added more samples, but it looks really good. Looks pretty decent. We've got our wall texture, we've got our texture on our model. You know, you can see this is a little bit raised. Adds a little more depth into the texture. We've got our transmissible texture, our kind of metallic texture, our wall texture. Overall, looks pretty decent. Thanks for bearing with me. Yeah, through the power of post, here it is. Here's our final product. Good job, everyone. The power of post-processing indeed. Here is our final image. Hopefully you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial.